I thought that the guy is going to open the door, but no, he just walks right through and the door comes flying in my face.
TheSmartLocal.com.
Hi. What is your biggest culture shock when overseas?
The biggest culture shock to me will be foreigners talking to me like I'm their friend.
They treat you really nice, like they know you for a long time.
If we ask them for help, they would go the extra mile to help us.
They will say, excuse me, if you walk past them, and then they will start a whole conversation, and that's not anything that happens in Singapore.
Overseas, people have very different ways of greeting you.
I feel like in a more Western culture, everyone's more open, everyone's more friendly. Your servers are gonna come up to you 24/7 asking you, how was your meal? Do you enjoy everything? Is everything okay? Yeah.
Like I feel like in Singapore, every time I meet those uncles or aunties that are doing the cashier, they're always screaming at me.
Not a bad thing, but it was definitely a shock when randomly out of nowhere, an old auntie on the street complimented me and my friend.
I think I get stunned a bit sometimes, like, this isn't the standard protocol, you know?
They will talk to you. I don't know you, it's a bit scary to tell you like, why you follow me?
I was in a Transformer store in Universal Studio and this random guy asked me what's my favourite Transformer. I swear I thought I was going to get robbed, but I didn't. He just really wanted to know what my favourite Transformer was, so that's kind of weird.
When I went to London, cashier greeted me and was like, "Hi, how are you?" I was stupid enough to reply, "I'm good, you?" And then she just like looked at me and then didn't reply.
They're not actually asking you to answer the question.
My biggest culture shock overseas is in Australia. When we tap out of the bus, people will always say like, "Thank you, driver." I will always thank the driver after we get out.
In Singapore, you don't even like stop to look at the bus driver for like a second.
So I went to China and the spitting.
They just spit by the roadside, free and easy. Almost like every minute you walking along the streets, you can hear like then. So I went to Amsterdam and then I saw that there were these small partitions along the whole canal. It's actually a place for people to pee.
I think my biggest culture shock would be not having toilet bowls, because when I went to China last time, all the toilets were like squat toilets.
They are more used to squatting when they pee or poop, and also it's very, very dirty, most of them.
Oh my god, another culture shock, right, is where you cannot flush the toilet paper into the toilet bowl. Like you're supposed to throw it in the dustbin next to a toilet bowl.
It's quite weird because it means that you're just sitting beside a pile of pee stains or shit stains.
When I went to Japan, the biggest culture shock for me is the universal design. Feels off to me because that's not something you'll see in Singapore.
And I realized that there are no bins around the streets.
Then I walk for like an hour and I still don't see a bin inside, and I'm like, oh.
You have to bring your trash home with you. But I was really very shocked because I'm like, I hold all my dirty tissue, then like I shove in my pockets and all, like damn gross lah.
And got one more, when I wash my hands, there's no tissue paper or hand dryer leh. How to dry my hands?
Mainly in Japan, where they have onsens, you go in naked and you see other people naked. I cannot imagine how it would be like to see like so many naked bodies in front of me at once.
I think the biggest culture shock I have when I go overseas is the almost sort of fake hospitality that you get everywhere you go.
They think for themselves. They don't say excuse me.
In Singapore and MRTs, we're like, oh, excuse me. But for them, like, they just like push to like get to like the other area of the train.
So I've gotten doors slammed in my face many times. I thought that the guy is going to open the door, but no, he just walks right through and the door comes flying in my face.
People would stand right in front of the door when you board the train and when you're trying to exit the train. I'm trying to exit the train and I almost have no choice but to run into them, and I feel so bad.
My biggest culture shock when I'm overseas is that when you're on public transport, they don't like give up their seat to like elderly people.
I was a bit shocked to see that no one was giving up the seat for her until like after a few like stops or station, and then someone asked her if she wanted to sit.
And we were sitting at a restaurant. People would come to our table and sit down without asking for permission. And I thought that was really rude, but my parents explained to me that it's just the norm in countries like that.
My biggest culture shock when I'm overseas is how close people stand to you when they speak to you. So I feel like in Singapore, people keep a good enough distance when they speak to you. There's some breathing space. But a lot of the time when I'm overseas, they like will really get up right in your face to speak to you, and it really makes me a bit uncomfortable sometimes.
I was very shocked at how all the drivers were actually very polite.
I went to UK, right? People were high-beaming us. We were like, why are they high-beaming us? But actually we realized that it's actually a way of saying thank you.
Everywhere and anywhere, people are just horn, beep, beep, beep. I finally found out why. It's just because they want to give you a friendly warning.
The biggest culture shock to me, right, was that they had designated zebra crossings, but the traffic will never stop.
You can cross, but they won't stop for you, you know? You just have to cross. Like there's no traffic light, whatever. Even if there's traffic light, they don't care. They just go as per normal. You just have to walk through.
I didn't know that other countries, like certain countries, drive on the other side. You know, Singapore is usually on the right side, then some countries on the left side.
We went to take a taxi and my father went to open the driver's seat. I think the driver thought he was going to rob him. So he was like,
The lack of street lights. So usually when like the sun sets, everything gets dark outside. Then that's when I realized actually Singapore has a lot of lights.
My biggest cultural shock is how long the public transport system usually takes.
The average time is like 10 to 15 minutes.
The public transport isn't as clean, isn't as efficient.
I appreciate how great our transport is.
I was fined 60 euros. When I was in Germany, I was in Berlin, they didn't have any gantries. So I didn't know you had to pay. This group of very big burly men came on the train and started checking everyone's tickets.
My biggest culture shock when going overseas is definitely how old buildings and places are.
In Jordan, the water system is like every week there will be a big truck coming to your building and top up to your tank. The first few days was disaster because we ran out of water and we need to wait for another week to get the truck to top up to our water tank.
When I go to Taiwan, wow, their convenience store is the best.
I noticed that their 7-Eleven are themed. Everything was just decked out in Hello Kitty, which I think was very, very interesting.
We all know they are pretty known for bubble tea. Majority of them are using paper cup actually.
The convenience store that I went to, they don't sell paracetamol in like a full box. And then you can only buy one strip per transaction.
In Japan, I tried my best to slurp the noodles. We all know that in Singapore, if we were to slurp our noodles, it's very rude.
I was shocked that I can eat ice cream on the train because there are vending machines like everywhere.
Their trains have like cushioned seats, so it's fabric, which means the stakes are even higher if you drip something.
Something that was quite shocking in Korea is that if you go to cafes and you order a drink to take away, it's actually illegal to sit down in a cafe to consume that drink.
They have like minimum people and they have like minimum spending, and they say like minimum you need to buy like 400 grams of food.
So when I was in Vietnam, I actually went to their wet market. It's very different from Singapore wet market because Singapore wet market, they put their produce and vegetables in like containers, boxes, and lay them out on the table for you to take a look. But in Vietnam, they actually put it on the table, but also on the floor.
Some of the shops is full halal, but when you go to some shops, we do have halal food, but they also have non-halal food. Basically, halal and non-halal can be cooked in the same kitchen. I was too strict, and then a lot of time I just eat chips.
The food portion actually. I just ordered butter chicken and naan. The naan comes in a huge basket. That is the very first time I can't even complete a full meal.
In Korea, they give a lot of free side dishes.
The biggest culture shock is how expensive eating out or like groceries are. Like a meal is easily $20-30.
I like to drink coffee like almost every day. The coffee is either expensive or like very difficult to find.
So in Singapore, I think we're super lucky that we have like kopitiam hawker centers, right? That can offer you a super cheap meal, right? That can fill you for at least one meal.
In the US, and they had the tipping culture. Me not being a math person, so we had to like legit count like how much money we have to like, you know, give and tip as well.
But I tip 5% because the food was already so expensive and you expect me to pay more.
I don't think it's needed. Like it's 15% of your bill, which is damn a lot.
My biggest culture shock going overseas was when I went to Australia and everything was closed by 5-6 o'clock and I couldn't get access to the supermarkets.
And then there's like very limited dinner options.
I think we're very used to things opening late at night.
When I landed there,
the biggest culture shock is that how big the land is.
It takes a lot more time to travel everywhere.
I didn't realize it was very common for people to drive an hour and a half just to go to school.
I think my biggest culture shock when overseas, especially in Europe, is how slow paced like people's lives are.
Certain ways they do things, especially at the workplace, it can be a bit more laid back.
As compared to Singaporeans, I think we lead a more fast-paced and stressful lifestyle.
The first time when I went there with my Singaporean fast pace, I got a bit of impatience. I was like, why is everything moving so slow?
I think I'm very used to the fast-paced environment.
It's quite funny to see that people are not as kanchong or as kiasu.
People overseas like to do their job. They do it with a sense of joy and kind of a sense of pride, I guess.
Apparently in some countries, they actually have over a year of maternity leave. I think if more benefits like that is given to Singaporeans, maybe the birth rate will actually go higher.
I realized how in touch they are with their heritage and culture. So to see it so vibrant in all these Southeast Asian countries was very refreshing.
I'm always touched by the sheer amount of support that they give to the teams.
And there's a lot of respect from others as well.
When I went to Korea, and the amount of PDA there is triple the times of Singapore.
How open they are towards the plastic surgery and the aesthetics.
It has to be the fact that we take Singapore's safety almost for granted.
Go out, leave our stuff on the table, or walk out late at night.
But elsewhere in the world, you would realize that pickpockets are kind of like normal.
The lack of diversity. I don't think it's possible to find 4 to 5 ethnic groups walking the same street as compared to Singapore.
Singlish just stands out. Then you realize that actually there are plenty of Singaporeans all over the world. And then you start to notice the accents, right? Just all the hey la law and everything. And then you realize, oh, we're really global.
But I think there's something really cool about Singapore where we always have a home to come to.
Thank you for watching this episode of 99 Singaporeans. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring the notification bell down below. And watch our videos over there.